How to get ideas and concepts to write special reports. These special reports, when written properly, can attract customers, demonstrate your value, and provide results in advance. In this podcast, I'll share the fastest way to put these reports together, period. Hi, I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. I just said period. I'm going to get you a real quick podcast. I was dictating earlier, and I use dictation as a way to type faster, and that requires you to call out the punctuation and line breaks and stuff. Okay, here's really what we got to get to. You probably already agree, or you should agree, that special reports, especially those reports that are written like sales letters, are a valuable way to multiply your time, meaning you can write a sales letter and you can mail it out and get sales, and you didn't have to individually talk with thousands of people. It's very scalable. Special reports are the same way, where somebody can say, hey, tell me more, and you send them a special report with more information. Now, sometimes these reports are difficult to write. Well, instead of writing them, a lot of people will do a spoken presentation. They'll do a platform sales presentation and use one of those formulas so that they can speak their presentation into existence. But how do you know what topics your audience is interested in and what topics will help that audience move forward with a sale? Well, I do something very simple. First off, if you weren't already aware, I have a large collection of notes. I take notes for everything. If I take a training, I take some notes. If I see something interesting in the news, I'll take some notes. If I have I'm having a consultation with a client, I take notes and I write a report of findings. Well, ultimately what happens is this library of materials, certain things bubble up. And you may notice it with your own business. As a copywriter, marketer, or business development professional, pretty much everybody you interact with on the business side is interested in creating and keeping customers. They want more customers. They want more conversions. They want a better sales letter. They want more leads, more qualified leads. All of these topics are ripe for some kind of special report that your prospects can request and you can deliver at a low cost in order to qualify them for consulting, for writing assignments, for all kinds of things. Do you understand that? If you understand direct response, you likely understand it. But you often have the frustration, and this is what I hear from a lot of folks, that they don't know what to write. And if they did know what to write, they would just write a book and they would send the book out. Or you've been writing a newsletter and you don't want to repeat your topics. Well, again, here's what I do. I'll post something on social media. Some topic will bubble to the top, and then I'll ask in certain groups. And in fact, I'll share with you right now. Here's the post I made on the No BS Inner Circle group. This is formerly Glazer Kennedy Inner Circle, and I'm a diamond member. I invest in my education. I invest in the right resources. I invest in the knowledge I need, but I don't know everything. So I asked the question, has anybody done a study on how speakers like John Rappaport, Reverend Ike, and Mike Murdoch influence followers? For example, speaking directly to the audience in a language that empowers, encourages, and lifts up the listener as special. Okay, so this is an opening paragraph, and I'm asking this group about persuasive speaking. Now, I know a little bit about persuasive speaking, but I sincerely want to know, has anybody really gone into depth to look at television evangelists, health advocates, to look at politicians, and find the common patterns between these folks? Now, in my own materials, I've seen these patterns and I've recognized them, and in my own studying and my own application of this type of material, I have actually seen patterns. So I'm like, well, has anybody else seen patterns? Okay, so second paragraph. It's part motivational and part secrets revealing. By the way, I'm asking this question because I notice these people have a large number of followers. And if you're a marketer and you have a big list, that list has value. We've talked about that in the past. So it's part motivational and part secrets revealing. Most of these speakers have information products that reveal greater teaching for a select few. It's like they're motivating, informing, and connecting with lost peoples. So I do notice a bunch of audiences where they're reaching out for the lost people of Atlantis, and in your past life you were an Atlantean, and we want to reconnect with that, and through our special chakra system, we see TV evangelist, for example. You've lost and you don't know your way in life. Let me show you the way and bring you towards God. It's like that concept is everywhere at varying degrees. So I'm curious, has anybody studied the language patterns? Now, Dan Kennedy, this is my last paragraph. Dan Kennedy recommended the Book of Est, which covers some of the methods used, because I'm looking for specific methods. They use a lot of personality and copy concepts. They develop their own media, and they seem to be selling a higher understanding. How do they learn this? So my question is how do these people learn the nuances of what they're doing? I'm asking a group of people who are qualified to answer, and I sincerely want to know their feedback, because I'm seeing these patterns. I've read a few books. The Book of Est is great. It talks about how the whole Est organization built up audiences and built up a motivational training program. I'm not necessarily going to be a motivational speaker. I don't want to be a motivational trainer, but it's interesting how they gained compliance over a large audience, and they were able to help that audience get certain results through a method that was packageable, a method that they actually teach to trainers and could syndicate. Why is this important? Okay, so I put this message out, and I get 5 replies, and I get replies from known people in the industry, okay? These are people who are credible experts in their area, who provide a little blurb and excerpt, and I read it in every detail. So, for example, Ben Glass responds. Ben Glass is in Virginia, actually, as well, and he has a huge network of lawyers where he provides peak performance, marketing, and other advice to them. And he says, it's a really interesting and important question, and it fails if you're not authentic. So right there, oh my gosh, I looked through my list. I had sincerity, but authentic. Authentic means more. Authentic means to be aligned with that audience, to really believe and act on what you do. You can be sincere and not really care. So I'm like, oh, well, there you go. There's some insights. You have to be your real self on stage. Well, one of the challenges I was facing is that I always felt fake when I used these methods. So I learned these methods, and then when I use the methods, it feels like I'm setting things up. It's a little fake. Well, guess what? Part of my real life uses the methods in a different way, but is more comfortable with the way I operate. So this more conversational tone where I'm sitting with you, and you've asked the question, how do I write special reports faster? How do I write more compelling content? Well, you and I are just going to sit down and talk about it. And one of the ways is that, again, posting the question to an audience who has the authority to answer, but you can also post a question to an audience who it is going to be a different question, but to an audience who can benefit from the information. But let me just tie up here. They name Dave D. They name all these folks who are credible in the industry, which now gives me a path of pursuit. So I can take my language patterns and I can now confirm my observations with people who are already in the industry. Confirming my observations with people in the industry doesn't mean I got to go reach out to them and nag them or bother them. But I could send them a nice letter that says, oh, hey, by the way, so-and-so recommended you as a person to go to for trust-based selling. I've written a program about language patterns being used by influential speakers, and I noticed in your program there's some overlap. Now, of course, I got to go do the homework, but can you see how I'm starting out at a better starting point? I'm writing a special report from credible feedback. If I got no feedback, then maybe the topic isn't that interesting. I'm writing the report from credible feedback. That credible feedback has provided me avenues to pursue. I'm not asking them to solve the problem for me. I'm just asking them to point out who else is looking at this topic. Now, everybody else that's looking at this topic has an audience of their own, has experiences that I can use to balance the report. I might say a certain language pattern that I saw is that these influential speakers build their own audiences. Well, I may only have seen the pattern. I might not know exactly why it's important, but I can reference Dan Kennedy and his herd building, where if you have an audience to speak with, you have an audience to make offers to. And so how do you get the audience? and how do you make offers to them becomes part of that being persuasive, because I also know that all these speakers ask for micro commitments. So raise your hand if you're interested in such and such. That's a micro commitment you might do with a group. But if you're over a podcast, you can't ask them to raise their hand, but you can ask them to click a link to let you know their feedback. So I'm developing the elements of my special report. Now, there are some challenges with this. You can develop your special report so quickly that it becomes more training materials than a special report that persuades or influences, like a sales letter. Now, that's why you got the copywriting skills, is so you can find that balance. But now I can go through, I found 35 different language patterns. I found 5 experts that also speak on this topic. I've got practical examples. So now, at least from a selling perspective, I can test with my audience by simply writing 12 language patterns that helps you be more influential and powerful as a speaker. Somebody asks for the special report. What does the special report contain? Of course, it opens with the problem. Many professionals, whatever the audience is, many professionals are fearful of speaking. It's the number one fear. They don't know what to say, and they're also concerned that the audience won't like them. They really want to get up there and speak and be persuasive the first time. They want the audience to do exactly what they ask for. They want the audience to connect with them and like them. Well, here are 12 mistakes people make when they want to speak and be more persuasive. And then I can provide practical examples. And by the way, I just made up that special report right here. Now I'm going to have somebody transcribe the podcast so I can extract it. And if I decide to do the special report, there's my opening. Isn't that persuasive? Isn't that interesting? If you want to speak and be more persuasive, you can pull this kind of report, and I give you 12 tips. Now I know I got 35 tips, but I picked the 12 that help the audience get started. Now, you can finish off with examples. So-and-so is a motivational speaker who sells training on selling. And he sells cold call training. And that's the most scary and frustrating. Yet he both uses the skill he teaches, and then I can lay out the skill, as well as helps the audience solve the same problem with these tips. And now I've got a little chunk in there that provides that audience in the special report a little bit of getting started. It also shows how other people have overcome problems. And then ultimately, as you move to the end of that report, I can offer a consultation. I can offer a workshop. And by the way, I'm not going to have a workshop on persuasive speaking. I'll be happy to answer all your questions about it. I'll be happy to go further in that topic on a sidebar if you'd like to write me a note. But ultimately, the special report writes itself by interaction with the audience and by interaction with credible people. I'm not going out and doing a bunch of research. I'm basically topic testing. And if the topic has feet or merit, then I can take extracts from the conversation and put it in front of my lists as lead generation. This is so important. So when you're working with a client, if the client's an information publisher, for example, you may not want to write some big giant program. Now, they may already have a customer and you may have assessed that, but if you look at it and they're got the cart before the horse and they want to write this giant program and they don't actually have an audience, you can suggest to them, hey, look, let's use this technique in order to write some special reports to start building your list. And then we can test what areas are most of interest to the audience. Now, because I've collected and organized the information, I've got a post here. I got a post on a couple other sites. I'm gathering all that information back into one place. I'm creating materials like the podcast I recorded prior to this, which was how to be a more persuasive speaker as a high-income professional entrepreneur that was offered on one of my other channels. I'm extracting from the conversation and describing to you the method because you're a marketer or a copywriter or a business development professional. A few of my clients, I've written small reports and stories that positioned them as the expert and essentially told the story of successes they've had with clients. I wrapped that all up. I think it was 12 pages on the first draft. We started lead generating with the first draft. It became, I think, about 96 pages by the time it was done. And if we had more time to work on it, I think for that particular client, we would have written a complete book because he was a Cambodian immigrant that came to the United States with nothing in his pocket except for $2 and the shirt on his back. And he struggled at first, and he did this and he did that. And through those things, he formed a business. And in that business, here's what he did for customers. And that's how he got to where he is at that point. Now, unfortunately, that client passed away, but I have the materials started out as like 12 pages, and we built onto that, sharing his origin story and the reason why he's in business. And then we started sharing customer success stories in the same materials. And now when he had an appointment with somebody, he'd show up and he'd say, oh, hey, do you have a copy of my book? Or do you have a copy of my report? And we also started to add some reports that were specific to product lines. So a customer might call on the phone for general information, or he may send out a letter that provides general information. And at the end of the letter, it simply said, if you'd like a copy of our free report on how to X, Y, and Z, and then simply contact our offices and we'll send it to you. And he had something to send. Now, again, you can start out with 12 pages. You can start out with 8 pages. You can start out with 4 pages. You can start out with a single letter. The key is, and this is the benefit to take home, is that you generate a lead to determine if there's any interest. If you don't generate any leads, then there's probably no interest. And if you do generate leads and there's a lot of interest, then you go out and get additional information and resources where you can syndicate to other lists, but you can also build a credible resource for your audience. You reward those people who are clients to get feedback on the report, and then ultimately then can market the product. Now, I've made the mistake a long time ago to market stuff that nobody wanted. I've got 500-page books that nobody ever bought. Now, I've used the information over and over as a consultant or a business analyst or even a copywriter to serve customers, but nobody wanted the book by Justin Hitt. I got a couple books out there and they buy it periodically, but nobody's buying it with gangbusters. But when I started implementing this method that I'm talking about here, not only am I able to connect as a credible resource in the marketplace with peers, but I'm also able to collect information and save my prospects time and then find topics that are of interest that I can deliver as a report. Now, you might not want to be an information marketer. You may simply want, I'm a publisher. That's why I follow this pattern to the information side, but you may want to set up the opportunity, or for your clients, set up the opportunity for a sale, because now you have a more educated customer, and because you delivered a special report rather than having to set an appointment or having to get somebody in a showroom or a demonstration, you've actually delivered it all to them. It makes it easier. Now, folks, I'm worn out. I've dumped so much out there. I hope you appreciate me just pouring out from my heart an exact plan to use social media or research, interactive research like surveys to build out your special report. You should never run out of topics. This is a powerful way to do that. But I hope I also added the value where it's about lead generation. As soon as you got a concept, you want to start generating leads. And then what do you offer the leads? Where you offer them your first draft. I've offered manuscripts for entire books. And the key, though, after that is that you make an offer. Because I've shared a lot of manuscripts for books that never got published. And I don't really care because I got a lot of consulting assignments. I got a lot of project work. I'm Justin Hitt from Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. I'm drained. If you've got questions about this or anything else that we share here at Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips, visit me at www.adbriefings.co.uk, where we're here to help copywriters, marketers, and business development professionals not only have the skills to create words that sell, but how to package those words, how to get them in front of the right people so that they can grow their agency or consulting business. Thanks for listening.